Okay, in this video we will talk about Webpack. Webpack is a module bundler for JavaScript applications. Webpack recursively builds a dependency graph that includes every module your application needs and then package all of those modules into a one file which is generally called bundles.js. But before we talk about Webpack, I would like to start from plain vanilla HTML and JavaScript and then move to AMD modules and then to ES6 module, and then we'll see how Webpack help us. Okay, let's start with creating a new folder here called Webpack. Open the folder Webpack. As you can see, it's empty. We are starting from blank, and now let's go and add a file called index.html. As you can see, this file is very simple file. It has just two text boxes and a button. So let me save this file, and if we go ahead and click on this, you can see there's a two text boxes and a button. That's all there on this file is. Now let's go ahead and add these two JavaScript files like math.js, and this file has the simple math one function called sum. As you can see, it's defined a math object which has a sum function. Very simple. And now let's define the next file called app.js, and this file will define another function called update sum. And as you can see in the app.js, it's a very simple one. Function is defined which basically connects your HTML with the JavaScript. We get the values from these two text boxes, call the sum function on the math, and take the results and put it in the inner HTML. And if you look the HTML, it is defined like this, where I have this two text boxes, call the button, and on click we call this update sum. In the update sum, which is defined like this, and these two files are included as a script, and that's about it. Let's see how everything works together. Now if we double click on HTML, we can click and see the answer. Everything is working. But this is a very old way of doing things, where you have an HTML and JavaScript defined, and you have to manually include all the JavaScript needed, and you have to make sure they are in the right order. If the order changes, you will have a problem. So JavaScript has a feature known as implied global. So whenever you use a name in your code, the interpreter walks the scope chain backward looking for a where statement for that name. And if none is found, the variable is assumed to be global. And that's create a big problem, because that makes code very hard to maintain. And to counter this tendency of JavaScript that everything is implied global, modules were invented. And there are different kind of patterns are there. One is called module pattern, where an anonymous function is defined, and inside that anonymous function you write your code, so your variables are constrained to that anonymous function. And then there's a common JS pattern is there, AMD pattern. So common JS is mostly used on the server side with the node. It loads the module synchronously, but it's not good for the browser side. So for that, the AMD modules were invented, where the modules were loaded asynchronously. And then there's the UMD module is there, universal module definition, where you want to use both the modules, CommonJS and AMD. But none of these module patterns were inherently supported by JavaScript. So this is all the hack we built around to counter the tendency of JavaScript that everything is implied global. But this all changes from ECMAScript 6, which is called ES6 module, where the modules are inherently supported by JavaScript. And what's great about ES6 module relative to CommonJS and AMD is that it gets the best of both worlds. It's very compact and the syntax is very declarative and simple, and the modules are loaded asynchronously, and it has an added benefit of having a better support for cyclic dependencies too. Now let's convert this into AMD module. And for that, let's start with math.js and take this file and rewrite this math function as a AMD module. And if you see, it's almost same, only we added the AMD syntax where we define a module like this, define math, and there's a function is called, and then you return a math object which has the sum function. This is nothing special but the AMD syntax. Now look at the app.js. Now let's take this update sum to a separate file, so we can call it a AMD module and rewrite same function as AMD module. So you see update sum is calling a function doing same thing like before, but slight change. It's an AMD module which is dependent on math module, the math module which we just wrote. Okay, very simple so far. But to use this AMD module, we have to use a require library. You can download require from requirejs.org and go here, click on download, and then you can download one of these files. Let's keep this require in our new directory called lib. Okay. Now once the require is downloaded, we change app.js as require.js, which is saying we need a AMD module to do all this, and this is exactly as before. This app.js is connecting the HTML with the JavaScript functions, and here we are adding a click event listener to update sum method. If you see the index.html we had before on click update sum, but in AMD module we are doing this wiring in app.js, and the reason is when you were using plain vanilla, everything, all the JavaScript files were pulled in with the DOM and they were all in one context in the browser. So on click can see the update sum, but if you will run this code on click update sum, now update sum is in on an AMD module which will not be visible to the context of the browser, and this code will not work. So that's why we will remove this from here and wire this event with the method using the require thing here, require.js, and you can see coming back to index, now we are using the AMD module and we don't need to define our two files like this, app.js and math.js. For require, the syntax is like this. You just put a require.js and then you define where is your main JS file, and app.js starts pulling in AMD and AMD pull in math. So all the other modules will be pulled in by just using this one file, and all this magic happened because of require. Let's see now, save everything and see now if everything works. Open here, let's refresh it and say 243. Okay, everything is working. So now let's see how we can use Webpack in this AMD module and don't need to have this require. So we can just get rid of this and maybe we'll call it bundle.js. Hopefully everything will be work and all the JavaScript files will be bundled into this bundle.js. And to use web config, we have to create a web config file. And web config file is as simple as this, that you define a module export and give a entry point. You remember in require we had a data main which tells where's your first main JavaScript file, and same way we can do it in Webpack. And here we can say it's in app.js and then just say where is the output file. Bundle.js. These are the two things you need to start using Webpack. Give the first JS file and then the output file. Let's add one more thing called watch is true. So this will keep watching our all the files, and whenever the files will change, it will recompile it, rebundle it basically. So let's save everything. But before we can use the Webpack, we have to fix our app.js. Here all this require config and require information is there. We don't need all this now. Get rid of that and let's define another method. Let's call it wiring, because this is the method which is wiring the HTML with the JavaScript. And this one syntax we have to tell where the AMD module will be found, and that's it. Once the wiring is defined, let's call the wiring method. Otherwise this wiring will not happen. This click event will not be connected with AMD sum. So we made this change and let's see, Control KS. Okay, let's see if everything works. Webpack. There's an error. Output file name. The error is, okay, I think the error is this, exports. Control S and okay, it's compiled everything and bundle.js is made. Let's see if everything works fine or not. So we are here. It's not working. Let's see what is the problem. And if we do F12 and refresh it, and we see there are two errors. Define is undefined. Again, I guess there's a typo here. Define is undefined, of course. Control S, and that's the good part of it, putting watch there. So you just save it and it creates the new bundle file. Refresh it here and it's working. So you've seen how Webpack can be used with AMD module. You have to just define a web config file and define the entry and output, and that's about it. Now, and the changes what we have done here, but there's no other change made anywhere else. Now let's see how we can convert these modules into ES6 and how the Webpack will be used, and then we'll go into more detail of Webpack. Okay, now let's convert everything into ES6. First thing, let's convert the math.js, and ES6 modules are much simpler and cleaner. If you will see, you'll just say export function, give it a name, sum, and that's it. So this is the math function, and let's see AMD.js. Let's rename to now ES6 as we are in ES6 world. Let's call it ES.js, and to convert this guy, we have to delete everything from here. Sorry, let's say export function, delete everything up there, and delete everything here. Okay, and let's import the math module. Let's import the sum method from math. Okay, so this is it. And now let's change our app.js. Here we'll just say let's import ES from ES module, and then change all this to a AMD function. So we'll say here export function wiring, no more string, and it changes like this. And then return, let's change this, let's fix the function spelling, and then call this function. We still have some error. Export function wiring. Okay, it's wondering where is the AMD is coming from. So change this to ES, or you know what, we can do this, import update function, and that's it, and we'll just call this update function. This thing should work, and you can see the error is about you may need an appropriate loader to handle this file type. Now to use ES6 module we need a transpiler, and it's called Babel. So Babel has support for the latest version of JavaScript through syntax transformers, and we need a plugin now for Webpack to understand this new syntax of ES6. Let's go ahead and get that. You can read more from babeljs.io. On this site you will learn about what all we can do with Babel. But to fix our Webpack config, let's go ahead and add the module for Babel. And the syntax for that will be like this. Put a comma here. Here we are defining a module, and the loader of the module is an array, and first one we are using here is a Babel loader. Look for all the files which has extension JS and exclude the node modules and other things, and preset the query. And now let's see if this will work. It should give us error saying they don't know where is the module loader. So let's get that, break this, and let's load the Babel. So let's say npm install Babel loader, Babel core, and Babel preset ES 2015, save for def. So the official name is ECMAScript 2015 language, and it's the 6th edition of the ECMA 262 standard. The specification mentioned neither ES6 or ES 2015, but now in this presentation I kept on referring ES6, so let's continue with that, and just for the consistency. So whenever I say ES6 I mean ES 2015 or vice versa. Okay, now everything is loaded here. Let's go and just fire Webpack. Okay, so we see there's an error, syntax error, function. Okay, let's fix this. Okay, Control S, save. Hopefully everything worked. Good, now let's go and check this file in the browser. Okay, everything is working. Good. Now we'll get into the more features of Webpack. Okay, let's see what's happening behind the scene now with the Webpack. So open this, our file index in the browser, and F12, and let's refresh it. So we see there's an error, the style sheet is not found, and on network we see just one bundle.js is pulled in, So let's fix this error and add a style sheet. So here's the style sheet, style.css, and let's make background color say light blue. Save, and let's see. So you can see the style sheet is pulled. Everything is working fine. Now we can see how we can utilize Webpack and get rid of even this reference of style sheet from the HTML. Let's delete that, save this, and in the Webpack config we have to go ahead and add another loader to process style sheets. So loader, you can see them as an extension to Webpacks. So let's add here. This is saying get style loader and CSS loader, and come down, break the badge up, get the CSS loader and style loader, enter. Okay, everything is loaded. Let's start Webpack. Okay, now if I go refresh, my style sheet is not there, and here also I don't see a style sheet getting pulled up into the build. So what's happening is Webpack does not know that it has a dependency on CSS. Yes, we have a loader, but it's not in the dependency tree of this main file. So let's tell Webpack that we require one file called style.css, and save it, and we get an error. You may need an appropriate loader to handle this file. We just did the npm, but still we are getting this error. That is an interesting bug. Let's terminate this, get this loader again. Okay, so we got the loader again, and now do the Webpack. It was an interesting error. Let's see what happens. Unexpected token on style CSS. So there's another error. But I see one here. It looks like one of the files we have not saved. So KS, saved everything. And then let's break this. Okay. Now it's pulling style CSS. So looks like I did not save the Webpack config, or maybe one of those files after changing. But anyway, so it's all working. What did we do? We just added a require here for style sheet. And as you've seen, we had a loader. So let's go and check if our page is working. Refresh. Okay, style sheet has come. And here, there's no more error. And just bundle.js is pulled in. And our style sheet is working too. So with Webpack, you can pull in the style sheet also. So now let's check where is the CSS gone. So here is the index page. Let's look at the elements under the head. You see the style sheet is in line with the page, so it's very good for the page view. Okay, our style sheet is here. Now let's see what else we can do. We can do this Webpack-p. Okay, and let's go refresh it. Still everything is working. And here You see it's all minified now. Now it is very easy to change your CSS into Sass. So to do that, just convert your CSS file into SCSS and put the Sass loader. CSS and add here Sass loader. Change this file to SCSS. Of course, you should change it here too. These three changes in the file, and then you have to get the loader. Here's the error is coming, unexpected token, but this error is coming because of we added a loader here. So save this also, Control KS. Now go here and say Webpack Sass loader. Here if you come down you may find this thing. Let's do that. Okay, I can see the error. That's pretty dumb mistake on my part. It's supposed to be exclamation mark, Control KS, save everything, break it, run it, should be working. Okay, everything seems to be working. Now let's go and refresh it and see. Cool, everything is good. And I can see here it's pulled back, so you can basically process your Sass file this way, just adding one loader. Now as we see, everything is working, and here's my bundle.js, and here you can see all our code is there, which is inside the bundle.js. This can be, if you have too many files, this can be a little cumbersome to debug. Now if we want to see the real JS files, and for the ease of debugging we can include them, and for that what we have to do here is come to Webpack.js and add this line, DevTool source map, save it. Now refresh it here and come back to our dev tools. So here you can see bundle.js file is there still as is, but here in the Webpack you can see all your files. So here in math.js, let's put a breakpoint here and see it's hitting all the breakpoints I put in. This is easy to debug, and this you can do by just adding one line, DevTool source map, and to release it you can just remove this line and recompile. Now as we seen how we can extend our Webpack by loading different loaders, how to process CSS, Sass and Babel, etc. So now let's add a Jes Lint. So to figure it out what to do with Jes Lint, Webpack Jes Lint, here you can see we have to load this npm module. Let's do that first. And it's loading. Now once Jes Lint loader is done loading, we can take this, whatever is defined here, under rules, this thing, and change it to rules. Copy it here. Okay, everything looks good. So what did we do? We copied this thing and we uh, change loader into rules, and that's it. Control S. Let's save it. Run the Webpack. So now we are loading the Jes Lint loader, and it should be checking all our JavaScript file, and it found a couple of errors. So app.js says use ES version 6. So go to app.js and do this Jes Lint ES version 6. Okay, so we are seeing this semicolon errors. So let's go and fix them. Control KS. Now it's remaining app.js, and here remove this semicolon. Okay, it's everything compiled, everything looks good. So this is as easy as this to add Jes Lint. Let's see if everything is okay. Pause in debugger. Okay, we should remove all this breakpoints. So a quick recap what we did to add Jes Lint. Basically go and search Webpack and Jes Lint. Whatever module you want to load, generally they will have a detail how to add it to the Webpack config file, and get the npm module, and that's it. So here you can see the final web config file. App entry, file name, which is a output name, bundle.js, watch true, source map, and then we added these modules. Lint, Babel, and for ES 2015, and Sass loader. And this way you can keep extending this web config file.